Welcome everybody to Beyond Traditional Simulations, using AI to engage students in realistic scenario session. I'm Dr. Katie Roberts, and I'm the director at the Wisconsin Technical College System Office. A note to remember that this session is being recorded, and know that there will be Q&A time at the end of the session. So please share questions in the chat. And if you want to turn on captions during the session, there's directions in the chat at the moment, but otherwise click the three dots at the top of the meeting, click on language and speech, turn on live captions. And then you should have captions. Otherwise, there's a link in the chat for support. The goal for us is that the resources and recordings will be available on the WTCS Faculty Summit site within the next week. So we will be sharing that via email with all the resources, but if you already have been to the Faculty Summit site on MyWTCS, that's where it will be. Okay, as we're getting ready to get this started, let's take a moment to review session expectations. We're excited to host the Faculty Summit. There are 459 people registered for the summit this year. We know that many of you are taking your personal time out of your busy work schedule and with family as well. So we want to make sure that we're making the most of your time with the sessions that we're offering. Please share your questions again in the chat. We'll address them at the end of the presentation or as the presenters become comfortable to do so. At the end of the session, we'll put a link for an exit ticket so that you can provide us some feedback about this session and or some potential sessions in the future. Well, then I just have one more thing to say, and that is thank you very much to Renee and Kelly. I'm super excited. I was in Kelly's session last year. Renee met Kelly in the session last year. This is an exciting cross-college, cross-program presentation that spurred from Faculty Summit last year, and these wonderful ladies will tell you more about it. I turn the microphone over to you.
Thanks, Katie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking your time out of your evening. I am thrilled to see almost 70 people in the room right now. My name is Renee Hobley. I am the Hospitality Management Adjunct Instructor at Blackhawk Technical College in Janesville. I spent 30 years in corporate sales and training, and this is my 5th year at BTC in what I like to call one of my retirement gigs. I'll admit I'm a bit of an education junkie. If it's free and I can learn one new thing that I can implement somewhere, I'm in. I'm also an early adopter when it comes to technology, which right now means I'm totally into exploring anything AI. So as Katie mentioned, last year I saw this faculty forum session, and it said AI and it said something about creating characters. So it really sparked my curiosity, and I joined that session. And I started thinking about how could I bring the idea into my hospitality program by designing customer and employee interactions that my students could practice with. So that idea led me to reach out and connect with the presenter, who happens to be my partner for tonight, Miss Kelly Settinger. So thank you so much for going with my crazy idea, and tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Settinger. I have been in education for over 20 years now, and I've worked at Midstate for 14 years. And most of that time I taught communication, and now in the past 3 or 4 years, I've been teaching behavioral science. I guess this wonderful collaboration was great for me, because how often do you give a presentation and then you never hear from anybody? So I love it when people do contact me and have questions or want to brainstorm. If you ever get a chance, don't be afraid to reach out and contact someone new. And I'll turn it back over to Renee.
Thank you. Okay, so now I just have to get my clicker to work. Oh, there we go. So goals for the session tonight: participants will be able to construct AI chatbots using 2 different tools. Character AI, which is the tool that I learned last year from the same event, and now Blackboard Ultra. So if you are on Blackboard Ultra at your college, there's a tool there that I totally missed until I started working on this presentation. You'll be able to understand how to integrate AI-generated role-playing into course curriculum. And we're also going to just take a look at educational collaboration opportunities and networking strategies. How do you reach out to someone from a different college, from a completely different program? And me being an adjunct, you know, you're just supposed to go in and do your job and leave. And, you know, I don't do that. I kind of get involved and active. So hopefully we'll be able to share some tips for that as well. So the preview, we're going to talk, we already did our introductions. We're going to talk about why chatbots. We're going to talk about specifically about Character AI and Blackboard Ultra. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to do a little demo if we can get that to work. We're going to talk about brainstorming the integration of bots into curriculum. And then we'll just share at the end some professional development and collaboration strategies on how we work together. Kelly did this awesome QR code where you can grab it right now and get our PowerPoint presentation, as well as 2 handouts that we did step by step through both of the tools. So Kelly, tell us what, kind of take me back to last year and what the whole thing about using a chatbot was even about.
Sure, wonderful. So why use a chatbot in your classroom? There's many different reasons. And of course, one of those is because we can have students practice complex scenarios in a very low pressure environment. The students I worked with loved doing it because they said they felt less anxiety when using the chatbot and asking the chatbot deep questions than maybe asking a classmate that they're sitting near. They also have judgment-free rehearsal. The chatbot is going to call them out and say, you know, why are you asking me that? Instead, it's going to try and provide an answer. It can be tailored to our needs. So as Renee pointed out, she uses hers for hospitality. I use mine for our introduction to psychopathology course, or what we still call abnormal psychology. So I can tailor the bot to talk and act and have a persona that, you know, a student may not want to, you know, act out in a role play. Also, it engages students in perspective taking, so they're able to kind of step in the shoes of that chatbot or that persona that they are working with. So it gives them another tool to look at through a different perspective rather than just the classroom setting. They can be unpredictable, which can be an advantage because we know humans are unpredictable, especially in hospitality, I bet, Renee. Mm-hmm. Some disadvantages is, you know, it's not the same as human interaction, but it is better than no interaction, right? They can't think or really feel. They can try to mimic those emotions, but we know it's not the same thing. But again, better than nothing at all. The biggest problem I've found, and I thought was really interesting in the article I just recently read that pointed out, you know, AI is great, but it doesn't tell you when it's wrong. Instead, it just makes a hypothetical guess. It makes something up. It hallucinates. And so that can be a problem when working with AI in many different facets, as well as here. They can be unpredictable, and sometimes that can throw students for a loop and maybe, you know, send them in the wrong direction. And they may contain human bias. And I just read a student's writing that said AI will always contain human bias because it's created by humans. And I do have to agree with that student. Next, we'll just take a quick look. I put this slide in here for you to kind of look at later, but kind of the hot topic under discussion, at least in the media, has been social AI companions and how there are many kids that are now chatting online with chatbots and using them as a companion. And I know different groups like Meta are trying to capitalize on this replacement social interaction. So what I wanted to do here is just show, here are some different programs that simulate human relationships, but of course have that discussion with your students about, you know, this is for a demo, you know, having an actual relationship with a chatbot isn't necessarily what we're going for here. Instead, we're using it in the educational context. So you can explore those later if you'd like. Now, why did I choose Character AI? Well, at the time, there weren't a lot of options. And the nice part about this is I didn't have to learn how to code anything. That was my biggest reason that I thought Character AI was so user-friendly. I wasn't learning coding. So you can create and customize your own chatbots. On the right here, you can see some of the images from some of my favorite chatbots that I have for class. I make sure that they represent a diverse set of backgrounds. I have kids, I have the elderly, I have many different ethnicities in my chatbots to make them authentic. It's super easy to use, and the bots respond to questions with answers. So at first, when Blackboard came along, it did a great job of asking students questions, but it wouldn't answer questions. So it just kept asking questions. But now we know in the last 6 months to a year, Blackboard has changed that, and we'll look at that in the future here. I'm also really excited to report that Character AI, we used to have students create their own account, but we don't have to anymore. Students can click on a link and boom, the chat bot opens up for them right there in Blackboard. Bots can now be also embedded in scenes, which I'll show you here in a little bit. And this super duper exciting thing that we didn't know last year that I cannot wait for, I'm like drooling as an educator and a comm person, is a multi-character role play. So what that would be is you would have multiple chat bots interacting as well as yourself. So you're having a conversation with multiple people, so to speak, or multiple chat bots at one time, which would be great for conflict communication and interpersonal relationships and dialogue. So look for that coming up. It's in the pilot phase right now. So I'm just going to take a few seconds to talk about Character AI, the program. If you want a really in-depth look at it, feel free to go back and look at the video from 2024. But I'm just going to point out a few features of the program. So here is kind of the main page of the program. The nice thing is if you don't feel like, oh, I don't have time to create chat bots on, historical figures, chances are somebody else has already, right? So you can go in and find chatbots on things like practicing language. I used one to practice Polish language. It was awesome. Practice interviewing. So there's a lot of chatbots already set up for you. If you look at the arrow on the bottom under try these, you can see some of the options. You can also on the top right search in their search engine. And then also on the left, I'm just pointing this arrow to the create and the discover function, which is really where all the excitement happens in Character AI, where you can create your chatbots. You can see mine all on the left-hand side of the screen. Okay, so this is just a sneak peek behind the scenes and how you would actually just, it's very similar to Blackboard, as you'll notice in a minute when Renee does her demo. You can have a tagline for the character. Alex loves adventure and writing at night. And you can put in a description that the public sees, which I did here. Since my chatbots do have a psychological disorder, that's kind of the purpose. My students interview them and try to ask questions and find out what their symptoms are, and then take screenshots when they find those symptoms. And you can have multiple different greetings, as well as you can then on the right here, or the bottom right, sorry, bottom right on my side, I guess left on your side, is the definition. So here's kind of what I put into the chatbot for it to understand how I want it to act. So basically, I'm just writing a paragraph about how do I want my chatbot to interact with people. It's that simple. And then there are some new customization features, like having multiple greetings. So you see these two blue arrows on the side. And basically, if you click the arrow that says AI greeting for new chatbots, it will let you add multiple greetings. So every time someone goes in, they get a new greeting from the chatbot. So as an instructor, I could put in, different questions to my students so that they don't all get the same exact first interaction, right? The also cool thing with Character AI is that it will talk to you and you can talk to it. Instead of having to type, you can also talk. But then I discovered this year, there is a limit if you have a free program. I think you can talk with them, you can ask them like 5 questions a day or something. It used to be unlimited, but they changed that. You can change all the voices. You can program your own voice. So if you're a teacher and you want to program a specialized chatbot to help students, it could have your voice, and your image, which would be pretty cool. Also on the last box that we're looking at here, they also just added a new feature where you can pick which AI chat program is attached to your chatbot. Now, I'm not quite that computer savvy to know the differences between all of these, but some of them are paid and some are free. But if you want to have that kind of control, it's available in Character AI. And here is just an image that we can see of what it would look like if you were texting Ronan here on the left. This is Ronan. And then on the right, here's Alex again. And this is what it would look like if I just talked to him and he talked back to me. I tried doing it the other day, but I'm just afraid my internet isn't quite good enough to show you guys. So I apologize for that. But if you come to this PowerPoint later, you can click on it. And then all you have to do is press the little phone icon and he will start talking with you, which is fun. And last but not least, in Character AI is a brand new feature as well called Scenes. And so basically they're just trying to heighten this role-playing experience. And you can pick a scene that you put your character in. So there's kind of 2 ways this can work. One of them is I pick the scene and then I pick a character I already have. And that character embeds himself in the scene. So I had a doctor that I had put together as a chat bot. And then I clicked like magical scene. And I asked her what she was up to. And she's like, I'm reading different books about spells and comparing them and how I can, figure out the best way to treat my patients or something like that. And I was like, wait, what? So there's many scenes that people have created, but you can create your own. I easily created my own with a therapist's office and put one of my chatbots in there. And it just makes it look more interesting and inviting. Plus also gives ambiance to your chatbot. And here's what it looks like when it's in the chat. So behind it, this is my therapist's office and Callie. It does then also, which is nice, is puts the description up there for the person. So that's also kind of an extra feature with the scene embedded. And last but not least, talking about Character AI, how am I using it in the classroom? There's 2 ways. One is I have my students about mid-semester, after they've learned about 4 or 5 different psychological disorders, interview chatbots in pairs. I provide them with some sample questions. They often tell the chatbot that they're their therapist. I even have some chatbots that try not to talk about their psychological condition. And so students really have to dig and build some trust with the chatbot. I have something set in there like, don't tell them your problem until they ask you at least 5 questions. And it's worked really well so far. Also, at the very end of the semester, I have students assigned to different chatbots. Again, they're going to assess their psychological disorder. They're going to take screenshots of the symptoms that they find. They're also going to take screenshots about the character's background, their psychosocial background, to kind of, as part of their treatment plan and explaining like, hey, it's the whole picture. It's not just these symptoms. And so what they're actually doing is building a case study where they lay out the problem, the symptoms, the diagnosis, and the proposed treatments. And so far, it's worked really well. My students are typically 2nd year liberal arts students, and so they've already had some introduction to research papers. And another way you could capture this would be using video as well, if you wanted.
Thanks, Kelly.
Renee.
So that's where I picked up from last year. I did all the stuff that she just talked about. I created 4 customers and I created 4 employees that were all part of this big resort. And the challenge worked really well, exactly like she said, but the biggest challenge was there was no way to capture the conversations. Even though I created these chatbots in my account, I could not go into my account and see who was interacting with my chatbots. So the instructions were to take these screenshots of all of the conversation and put it in a Word document. And of course, I got things that I had to read from the bottom up. I got ones where the one screenshot had part of the conversation from the previous screenshot still in it, and it was just making me crazy. So as I was preparing for this presentation, one of my coworkers said, "Have you ever tried the Blackboard Ultra version?" And I'm like, "Blackboard Ultra doesn't have a version." And she's like, "Yeah, they do." So I was shocked to find this and just started using it in the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to show you the setup steps, and then I'm going to go over to Blackboard and do a quick demo if I can. Let's see. So within your class, you're going to create a new activity just like you do for any kind of assignment. And then you are going to go to Participation Engagement menu and click at the very bottom there. You can see my arrow. It's the AI conversation. And then you're going to create your character. You can assign points. I did 2 that were no points that we just called practice, 1 customer and 1 employee. And then the other 3 of each there were point values awarded to them. And then you click on role play and then you click next. And then in step 2, you're clearly describing the student instruction. So this is where I'm telling the student that their job is that they're the general manager of this large resort, and their executive housekeeper or whatever the scenario is, and I'm going to tell them about that. And your job is to coach her using open-ended questions, talk her through what she might do to identify her area of interest in changing jobs or whatever the scenario is. And then in step 3, you're going to clearly describe the AI persona. So who is this person? You can pick an image, and just like Kelly, because in the hospitality industry, there's a lot of diversity. So I made sure that out of my 8 people, I had men and women, I had different ethnicities, I had different ages, because that's exactly what you would find in a huge resort. You can name them and then give them their personality traits. What is she supposed to do? How is she supposed to react? All that kind of stuff. And then there's actually a complexity of responses line from low to high. And I set that all the way up to high because I don't want it to be an easy thing. I mean, it's just like having a conversation with a person. You need to delve in and dig. And then, of course, you click save. So now I am going to attempt, see if we can get it to work. Can you now see my Blackboard? So I am in the student preview of Blackboard, and I've created this employee conversation with Naomi Parks. She is the executive housekeeper of my resort, and she wants to start considering maybe a new role, maybe a promotion or a different department, something. She's just looking for something new. And you can see I've done a couple practices. So I set this with unlimited attempts, which I don't know if anyone does that. I've never done it for real students, but I did for this. But we're going to start attempt number 3. She is going to start the conversation, but it's just going to be a disclaimer. This is a little bit different than ChatGPT. In ChatGPT, the chatbot, I'm sorry, not ChatGPT, in Character AI, the chatbot starts the conversation. And in this case, they do start the conversation, but only with this disclaimer. So I've pre-programmed a couple of questions. So I'm gonna tell my students that they have to do the introduction of themselves along with, what did I do? Along with that opening question to get the conversation going, and I'm going to send it. And just like if you've used ChatGPT or any other AI, boom, up pops this whole conversation. So she's been reflecting on her career growth, loved working in housekeeping, but thinks she wants to try something different. Okay, and I'm going to tell her wonderful. I'm always looking for talent. And then she's going to ask what qualities. And I tell my students, do not answer her questions. You're asking questions. You want this person to self-select. You want them to self-resolve if at all possible. And this is getting her to where, like, making her think through what she might want to do for a career. Now, I'm not going to finish this conversation because it does take about 6, but I am now going to submit it because I'm the student, right? And then I am going to exit the student preview, and I have to save it because otherwise my conversation will mysteriously disappear. And you can see in my grade book that there is an assignment in. And now I just have to find it. So here's employee conversation with Naomi Parks right here. And mic drop. There's that whole conversation in order that I could now give feedback to my student on, coach them to ask better questions, ask more delving questions, and stop asking closed-ended questions, whatever kind of coaching or feedback I want to give to my student. There is a essay at the end where you can ask them, and you can change this question, but in what ways has this conversation advanced your understanding of the topic? So they can answer that as part of this assessment as well. Okay, so let's see. Do we want to just see if there's any questions right now that we've gone through both of the tools?
I think that's a good idea.
One question. You want to grab it, Kelly?
I'm clicking it. Oh, there we go.
Oh, okay.
So I have from Danny, how do you end your conversation? As I have these in my Blackboard Ultra and they go on and on forever and students eventually get sick of doing it. That is a great question.
That is a great question. What I found is that I did as many questions as I wanted to do, and then I sort of wrapped it up. So I ended, and I've got it right here, how I ended it. I kind of, at first she said, what might I do? And I said, great question. I'm not going to give you those answers. Give it some thought over the next few days, and I'll be happy to review your list with you before you go to your mentor. And then she said, okay, that's great. And I said, perfect, let's reconnect in 3 days. So I ended it exactly how I would end a conversation if I really was the general manager. I'm not going to let her go on and on and on and on because, I'm the general manager.
I think you could. I just saw 2 things here. One in the chat. WTC said you could put criteria that needs to be met and then end it. My other thought is that you could tell students they have only 5 questions to get to that answer that you're looking for. Yep. So you could kind of put, or 5 to 7. You could do a range as well too.
Yeah. And again, I'm not hospitality is not neuroscience like what Kelly deals with, but you do have to end a conversation. So they need to figure out how to do that, just as you would in real life.
Yeah, and I think it depends on how you're using the tool, right? Especially in Renee's industry, I think in hospitality, they've got so many people to deal with that they've got to keep people moving. So yeah.
Exactly.
Other thing I thought of while you were talking, Renee, is it's always good to provide students with samples as well. So for mine, I do provide them with, here's a sample from last semester or last year of what other students have done. I give them screenshot directions, which Renee, any directions we have for you also for Blackboard. So those kinds of things as well are helpful for students to kind of wrap around the assessment.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you, Angie. Angie just put in the chat how she is getting her students to manage that as well.
Okay.
Well, yep, go ahead.
Did I see grading points? So she give points for like how many questions or?
Yep.
Okay.
How many rounds per question? The other thing we noticed when Renee and I were working with and putting this presentation together, my first question as a communication instructor was, is it attached to the rubric? And sadly, it is not yet. I'm sure that's coming. I'm sure there's instructors emailing them right now, attach it to the grading rubric, but you can assign points. So I would just create a rubric that they see and then, assign points just in the marks in Blackboard. But we do have some brainstorm questions for them, don't we, Renee?
Yes, we do.
All right, time to turn the tables. Because we had such a great time last year at the end of my discussion with Renee and other people, we thought it'd be great to see what kinds of thoughts you're having right now, what kind of ideas you're coming up with. So our first question, we have 3 questions. The first one is, in what courses or student experiences could AI-based role-playing provide meaningful practice or assessment for your students? So we'd love ideas either in the chat, or we're more than happy to have you turn on your mic or camera.
A human relations course to practice independent, mental health nursing, yes, any nursing course, dental, medical emergencies. I was even thinking at Blackhawk, EMS. I was thinking at Blackhawk, we have such a huge criminal justice program. How about even speaking to people on 911 calls? Sean says mock interviews.
Yeah.
Respiratory therapy simulations. Oh my gosh, these are awesome.
Client interaction. I can see that for graphic web design and also for not software designers and IT. They give a lot of presentations as well and talking with customers.
HR employee coaching. Yes. Writing feedback. Good one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My other side gig is I'm a substitute teacher here in Madison, and parent conversations, administrator conversations.
I also had another colleague from another college contact me, and she is using it for developmental psychology, and she's going to have her students interview mock children to see where their cognitive levels are. And I thought that was really interesting. Org behavior, yes, absolutely.
What about IEPs for special needs students? That ESL, ELL. Wow, you guys, This is amazing. Yep. End of term subject review conversations, conflict resolution.
Yep.
Oh.
Excellent. Yep. The other one I had a while back was to have students in a comm course like oral interpersonal, if anybody's teaching that. You could have them chat with the chat bot and then kind of analyze how that applies to social penetration theory or Knapp's relationship stages, because the chat bots, some of these like Character AI and Replica, they want to be your friend, right? And so they're going to try and engage you. And that you could have them write a paper about as well. But what do you think about question 2, Renee?
Question 2, how could you assess student learning or performance in these conversations? There's your rubric. There's your rubric question right there.
Dang it. That was not planned.
Is to create our own rubric.
Yeah.
Or we could get Katie to go and ask them to add this to Blackboard Ultra.
Yes, we'll put her to work. Yes, looking for terms like, yeah, I also, Suzanne, when I have them write their paper and put their images in, they need to be using those course concepts. Definitely, yeah. I think you could include that also with that essay portion that you had, Renee.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
Reflection. Yep, there you go. Yeah,
Wow.
I bet you could extend that reflection question at the bottom.
Awesome.
I'm looking for open-ended questions. So if I see any versions of open-ended questions, if I see closed-ended questions, that's where I'm going to start deducting points for what I'm doing it, for what I'm using it for.
That's a great idea. Okay, I think we have one more brainstorming question. And this one I thought was really good. What challenges do you foresee with using AI roleplay and how might they be addressed? Oh, Danny, great one. Align questions with competencies. That is for sure. Yeah. Renee had the screenshot issue, right? You said the first time, some students didn't know how to use screenshots. When they're starting that first semester, sometimes some people are great with it.
Not seeing facial reactions or body language. Yeah,
absolutely.
Transfer skills to real world application. Yeah.
Even in the classroom, they did like doing the. I do like using both the chatbots, and then I also still use role play and abnormal psych. But I was really surprised how much they said they could ask really, like, are you feeling suicidal type questions that they would be too afraid to ask their partner in class. So yeah, unpredictability of bias. That's true.
Although there's unpredictability of bias talking to people too.
Yeah.
So we do have that in common, there's going to be that regardless.
Oh, there's a barrier. Copying and pasting the conversation. Like, Are you thinking, Heather, like, instead of actually doing the assignment, someone just copying and pasting another conversation?
No, actually, what I meant was I recently did this with ChatGPT, going through evaluate oxygen competency scenarios.
Oh.
And with ChatGPT, they started the question in a parenthesis and said they wanted to be a student doing a live scenario evaluating oxygen with, and then I gave each student a different scenario, and then they typed in their scenario after that prompt, closed the parenthesis, and then it had a conversation with them and walked them through a scenario. The only problem, like you guys were saying earlier, is that it took them down a rabbit hole that might not have been the right answer.
Right.
So
yeah, that kind of sounds like discussion boards sometimes too, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a bummer. But good to know, right? Like these are things that we want to know before, starting an assessment. And yep, and I agree with Suzanne. Good students are always going to do the work and learn. Yep.
Yeah. You're right.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about some strategies for collaboration before we take our last set of question and answer. So I sat down and started doing some brainstorming about ways that faculty and even if you're in administration can collaborate and network with people in your field or near your field. One thing we often forget, I think, when we work in higher education is we are kind of silo ourselves sometimes in our discipline. Like I'm only concerned about hospitality or psychology, but then we forget about higher ed in general. I went to a great conference last year and it was all of higher ed, and it just like also opened my world a little bit. So don't be afraid to like sign up for a listserv in educational technology or in higher education instead of just maybe an association that you belong to. If you don't belong to an association in your field, I know some of them are really expensive. often their listservs or their newsletters are free. So I will sign up for the listserv and not pay the $800 membership and still get all the calls for submissions and notifications and announcements about new books. Also, social media groups, they've gotten a lot better than 20 years ago. I've learned so much. I think the COVID pandemic really pushed faculty into this online social media space to share ideas, and it's been actually quite fabulous. Also, another way to get involved in an association and, like maybe go to a conference and not have to pay registration is to volunteer for the conference. So I have done this when I was younger, been a volunteer at the conference. So that's one way, is looking at discipline-centered organizations to meet and find others and learn new ideas. Another thing to do, of course, is like present like we are tonight and meet people online as well as behind the scenes at WTCS. Take advantage of poster sessions. I know a lot of times you're at a conference and you don't even think about the poster session, but I went to one recently in Minneapolis, and it was such a great way to engage people because they're standing next to their poster just hoping someone will say hi. And you wouldn't believe the conversations I got to have. They were great. The other thing is, if you do go to a conference and they have breakfast, you must go. What, Kelly? Breakfast? Why? Because they don't have a guest speaker at them. So when you're sitting at the table with strangers, they will talk to you, which two conferences now, I've been like, I'm never missing breakfast again. I got more ideas at breakfast than I did later on in the afternoon. So think about that. Also, don't be afraid, like Renee did, email a presenter, ask them questions, because you may find new and great opportunities. Okay, Renee, what's our last slide on this collaboration here that I think is really great? So I'm going to talk about it a little bit, and then Renee will. At the WTCS and in most of higher ed, we have both full-time and part-time faculty at about a 50-50 ratio most of the time nowadays. I know as a full-time faculty member, I can get super busy teaching a lot of classes, but we really try to be as inclusive as possible on my team and many of our teams, right? So including those part-time faculty on emails, invitations to meetings, just stopping in before the semester starts, sending them an email. Are you all set? Is there anything I can help you with? Meet with them in person or Zoom to just, maybe calm their nerves, answer their questions. And that can really help. I also think, and I'm going to really try this semester, is I'm going to send out a survey to solicit some feedback on curriculum. Questions about what's working or what isn't. Renee?
Yeah, and I say some of the same things. It's a little bit unique for adjuncts because really, in a lot of cases, you are just going in, and I only go to Black Hawk on Tuesdays, but I do everything that I need to do on Tuesdays, all my classes, if I need to meet with anybody or do anything else. But to proactively reach out, I think Deb can speak to this. I'm annoying. I want answers. I want to know how this works, why it works, and I will bug people until I get those answers. But everyone is not like that. I know that about me. Ask about ways to contribute to department projects. I am the adjunct, but I am the only hospitality instructor. And that, my chair has been having to do all of the lead stuff for my program. And I kind of said, I can, Deb, thank you, Deb. I said, I can take some of that stuff on, so I'm asking to contribute to different things like that and offer to pilot new tools. I went kicking and screaming into Blackboard Ultra, but I did get through it. And then attend optional meetings and trainings. I just went to my first BOSS conference. That's where I got to meet Katie. It was wonderful. I learned so much at that. Got to meet with all of the other hospitality management instructors in the system. So yeah, those are you got to kind of put yourself out there. So we are at our last 5 minutes. So we're just asking what any of you have done to collaborate with others at your college or even outside of your college within the system? Suzanne, yes, we love our CITL team. That's who gave me the idea for even knowing that Blackboard Ultra had a character tool. So yes, absolutely take advantage. They are the best. Anyone else? We do have 3 resources. We have our PowerPoint, and we have 2 handouts. One, the step-by-step for creating the character AI, and the step-by-step for the Blackboard Ultra. And also the new scene directions are in there, right, Kelly? The character AI website guide. So we have that, and plus we'll also turn all those things in, and they'll be with the tools that are given out. And if anyone thinks of anything else after tonight, we are totally open to collaboration and discussion and whatever. So feel free to reach out to either one of us.
Yeah, and if we don't see you soon, maybe I'm hoping to head to the AI conference for WTCS. So if you like AI, there is time to still submit by December.
Thanks, Kelly and Renee.